Ladies and gents, we're still with you. And Big Laws is in the house, part 2. If you saw part 1, we were just getting into sort of the difference in format. Should it be heavy? Should it be medium? Should it be light? And also how we structure these strongman events. But one of the things that Laws picked up on there was that, appreciation of getting bums on seats and making strongman grow, because these guys are professional. We want to see more professional strongmen. In order to facilitate that, if you can fill arenas, if you can get people watching on pay-per-view online, it's all helping to grow that sport. And it's fair to say, Laurence, that from when you came into the sport in 2005 to where we are now, selling out arenas around the UK and in some cases the world, the explosion in strongman's popularity has been just amazing, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been incredible. I mean, I remember just competing in front of a few people in car parks, usually just friends and family members. And then obviously coming to Europe in 2016 and winning in front of 10, 12,000 people, they're kind of miles apart. And to see the growth and be involved with the growth, it's just been a tremendous journey.
We were obviously speaking before we came on here about the characters and the character sells. People buy that. They sort of, if they get to know the person that's competing, they're obviously far more engaged with that and they want to see the journey. And I remember back in the day, there wasn't really the focus that you now get, or you don't get the ability for these lads to get out and show their personality, show what they were doing. I think this now, the digital age and everybody having their own YouTube channels, everybody having their own podcast platforms, this, that, and the other, it's really getting that character out there. And I think there's a lot of fan base generally building around it. I mean, you only have to look at Eddie. Since his launch on YouTube, it's just been astronomical. Yeah. I think he's close to 1 million subscribers now. Just crazy amount of popularity. Where does this thing end, mate? Do you think we're going to see more and more superstar strongmen?
I really hope so. To see the growth of the sport in general has been brilliant. Like I said, when I started, you had a few competitions a year. A couple of people would come and watch. Obviously, World's Strongest Man was always on at Christmas, and that's just been tradition. But now you've actually got genuine fans of the sport that will come to the different events and come to lots of them. You get, I've been to some of the meet and greets and the events, and you see the same fans turning up. We genuinely have like super fans now.
You really do.
Yeah. For someone like myself, I find it weird still, because I always just see myself as just like, I'm really good at what I do, but at the end of the day, all I do is pick stuff up and put it back down. But you do sort of, you'll be walking around and people kind of treat you like you're a superstar. And then you get people that don't have a clue who you are as well, which makes it interesting. But you do have like genuine fans now, and they'll stop you in the street, and they want photos. They'll pay money to come and see you at events. They'll buy merchandise. When I started, no athletes had merchandise. Now nearly all of them do. Yeah. And you turn up to shows and people are wearing your kind of tops and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
That's got to make you feel proud. That's great, isn't it?
It is. It's really kind of just an amazing experience. Just we all work hard and we want to compete and do as well as we can. But that kind of the way we kind of inspire people. You get people messaging saying how we've got them back in the gym and they're feeling better and they're doing better with their life or whatever it might be. To have that impact on someone else is huge, and that's hopefully only going to grow the bigger the sport gets. The more people that are watching it, the more kind of popular athletes get. It obviously I've been involved for so long, and seen it come from the complete nothing. I guess there was no prize money for the top guys in any shows. That side of things getting better. Now you've got people that are genuinely making a living from doing this sport. It's brilliant.
Do you think how was the difference in buzz and excitement and possibly pressure from going from competing in leisure centres, in car parks, small venues like that, to going and competing in packed out arenas? Did you feel more of a desire to perform better, or was that desire based on a different set of considerations?
I've always liked a big crowd. I'm someone that just loves training, so I'll train regardless, and I can train on my own with no one watching. But when you've got thousands and thousands of people watching you, you sort of get this like voice in the back of your head saying you can't fail in front of all these people.
Don't mess this up.
Yeah, I've tried one. I like it. It kind of brings the best out of me, and I tend to perform better in competitions than I do in the gym. For some people, it can get on top of them, and it can actually make them underperform. But I love it. I love a big crowd. You know, the more people screaming at you to lift something, it just gives you a buzz. It gives you some energy, and you can just find that little bit extra.
When you when you come into these events and you're someone like yourself who's not inexperienced in having set the absolute bar worldwide.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's becoming more of an expectation around world records falling over like it's going out of fashion? Because when I'm speaking to the fans when we're doing the Giants events, everybody seems to just think, oh yeah, world record, it's going to come. It's not.
Yeah.
And it always seems to, there always seems to be someone who pulls it out. We saw it with Kielikowski a couple of times. We saw it most recently with the Albatross, Tom Stoltman. I mean, ludicrous potential right there. But definitely. It seems to be that the sort of popularity of the sport and the growth of the sport and the atmosphere that's there with it is just taking it to an entirely different place. And we're seeing so many guys get into that really ridiculous levels.
Oh, the standard now is crazy. And I think one of the reasons, actually, is social media. I think it's opened up our eyes to how strong people can be. When I started, just for instance, when I started, you know, I trained in a local gym, and all you have really to compare to is the strongest guy in the gym.
Yeah.
Whereas now everyone has a phone, everyone's on Instagram, and they see all these videos that these pros are posting every day. And suddenly you start thinking, well, if they're capable of that, then I can put the work in and I can improve. And, you know, it starts opening your eyes up to what's actually possible. And, you know, Kielikowski is unbelievable. That guy, you know, I mean, he broke my car walk world record in Manchester last year. And people are, you're upset about it. It's like, how can you be upset? The guy was just so good. It was kind of inspirational. But actually, it kind of lit a bit of fire in my belly. I was like, I want to have a crack at it and try and beat it. So that is still a target I have. If I can get my Achilles back to 100%, I would like another crack at that, because I've always felt I could go faster, but sometimes you need someone to take it to another level to really make you, you know, dedicate that training that's needed and push that a bit harder.
Yeah, a little bit easier to be the hunter than the hunted in that respect.
You know, I've actually only done the car walk twice, and I broke the world record on it both times.
Yeah.
Since Europe's 2016, I've never had another attempt at it.
It's funny, you talked about Mark and the situation he's in with the grip strength things. There's a similar situation with yourself in the moving events. I mean, we got to a stage where you were the nailed-on favourite in every instance when it came to yoke or anything where you're really moving with weight. You were right. You were on it. You know, and again, pushing the bar, pushing the boundaries of what could be achieved on a regular basis. When you suffer an injury like you did with the Achilles, that alone must have devastated you in that respect mentally. You know, I mean, I know you've suffered a few bad ones, mate.
Yeah.
But how close were you at that point to thinking, I've had enough?
With the Achilles injury?
Yeah.
Do you know what? The Achilles wasn't the worst for me. I think the worst, I don't know if you've seen 2015. I did an event called the Norse Hammer at World's Strongest Man. And in this event, again, Worlds didn't test it properly. It was supposed to be the fingered fingers, and they'd attached a hammerhead to the end of it. They wanted us to do 5 of them. I think the most anyone could do was 3, which was Hafthor. Most people couldn't do 1, and most people managed 1 or 2. The other people, even Zadrunas, I think, only managed 2. I flipped the first one over fine, got onto the second one, and then my tricep went out. This thing comes down, crashing down, knocks me to the floor, tears my tricep, tears my bicep. That for me was the hardest injury I've come back from, because I just come back from my torn lat, and it was I was like, the mental kind of pain that you go through, the devastation of sort of getting to the elite level. You know, I was 2012. I came 3rd at Europe's, and I was probably good enough to get top 3 at World's Strongest Man. And then I got an injury, and then I came back, got another injury, came back, got another injury. And then that injury at Worlds, when that came crashing down on me, and it was a devastating injury. If you see the video of it, this thing just knocks me.
I remember it, yeah.
You know, I had my wife there in tears, people watching, and I just completely turned my back on the sport for about 6 months. I just didn't want to know. I didn't want anything to do with it. And it was only kind of thanks to, real close people to me, particularly my wife, Liz, my mum, my brother, that sort of just said, just go back in the gym and just enjoy it. And I got back in the gym. I just started training. I actually tried to just get in better shape to start with. And then I sort of thought I'd do Britain's Strongest Man 2016. And I did the show with no expectations. And I think I ended up third.
Mm-hmm.
And then I broke the car walk world record in that show. So I thought, well, I'm still capable of this. I'm just enjoying it. Just do it for fun. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Ended up going to Europe. So I actually ended up working on a film the month before Europe's. It was a Kingsman 2 film. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was working on that for a month. So I was having to train at either, 4 o'clock in the morning or kind of like midnight. A friend of mine, Dave Beatty, who
Yeah.
he was opening up his home gym for me to train in. I was working like long shifts on this film. Went to Europe with no expectation. I felt pretty good in terms of the events. I knew they were good events for me. I didn't put any pressure on myself. Went to Europe 2016 and I won and beat Hafthor. He made a slight mistake on an event and I sort of capitalized on it and I managed to get the win. And to come back from that devastating injury to then win my biggest title, it just proved to me that you sometimes have to take that pressure off yourself and just go back to enjoying it. So then when I get injured now, I don't even let it affect me that badly anymore.
Yeah. Isn't that weird that you can get to that place? I mean,
and don't get me wrong, I used to be, absolutely devastated. It was like my world had ended when I was getting injured when I was younger. But I think the fact that I have kids, I've got other things that I focus on. I realize that as much as I want to win and as much as I want to be as good as I can, there's still more important things to me than lifting.
Sure.
So now I just enjoy my lifting. It's why I'm kind of doing the powerlifting this year and just doing using it as a year to let my body recover and then hopefully get back into strongman next year. I'm not sure what kind of level I'll compete at strongman. I'd love to do some of the one-day shows again because I really enjoy the one-day shows in front of the big crowds. I'm really not fussed about going back to World's Strongest Man. And that's nothing against the show. It's just it doesn't interest me anymore. I've been 11 times. I've qualified 12 times for it. I would rather give some of the younger guys that opportunity than just take a space and, maybe get to the final, maybe place top 5 if I'm in really good shape. I'd rather focus on the one-day shows with events that I feel I can beat anyone in the world at and put in a big performance of genuine strongman fans. So that's kind of my goal is hopefully next year to get back to some of the one-day shows, some of the Giants Live and maybe some others, and just enjoy it, put on a show for the crowd, and hopefully have a crack at some world records that I think I'm capable of.
And you're so popular at the Giants gigs, mate. Well, I mean, it's so evident when you're walking round. I'll be doing laps of the thing when we're walking through it, and people say, "Oh, can you get Laurence? Can you get Laurence?" Literally, yeah, call Laurence over. Call Laurence over. They love you. Absolutely
I try to be good with the fans, but sometimes when I'm kind of about to go for an event, that's when you sort of got to let me get on with it. But otherwise, I'm pretty laid back and easy to get on with. And if I'm just there watching, if anyone wants to come over for a photo or anything like that, they're always welcome.
Mm-hmm. We've heard you speak about that before, and we've been at Giants Live in terms of your aspirations now genuinely lie with the one-day shows. Do you feel like the world's strongest man thing, do you feel like that it is going to evolve and it's going to need to take that step because more athletes are going to be in a similar mindset to yourself? They've experienced the one-day super shows, the arena events, and they're going to think, you know what, I prefer these to worlds. And do you think that worlds have got to take that step and end up in that kind of environment? And is there an opportunity for that?
I personally do, yes. I mean, Worlds is still the number one show. It's the title to win. To call yourself the world's strongest man, that's the title everyone wants. And, as a youngster kind of growing up, and when I first got into strongman, that was always the goal. I wanted to be the world's strongest man. I never won worlds. I won the Ultimate Strongman Championships, which is a version of a world champion. So I can call myself a world champion. I've won Europe's Strongest Man. I've beaten every single top strongman at some point in my career. So I don't really feel I have too much to prove. I would have loved a podium at Worlds. That would have been icing on the cake. But like I said to you earlier, I've got other commitments now that almost hold me back a little bit from being able to give 100% in terms
Yeah.
of being at my absolute best for an event like World's Strongest Man. It's much easier for the single guys that you just sole laser focus is on one thing. You got like Lysis, Kiliaskowski, Thor. They're so dedicated. They give 100%. I personally just can't commit to that much dedication anymore.
And of course, all of those guys that you just mentioned there are the new breed of strongman in that they are professional strongmen.
Yeah,
And
and
let's be honest here, you didn't have that opportunity. You weren't a professional strongman for so many years. It just wasn't possible. There's a hell of a difference there.
There is, and I'm certainly not making any excuses because I don't want people to think I am, but the opportunities are improving. The recovery methods are improving, the training methods are improving, and I'm not getting any younger. I've been doing it.
If we had a who's got the grey in the beard competition, mate, I won't let mine get that long for a reason. Let me tell you now, I'd look like bloody Santa Claus.
I need a bit of Just for Men right now. It comes out for when I'm on TV. But no, I genuinely still love training. I genuinely have targets that I want to hit myself, and I still believe I'm capable of. But I'm honest with myself that I don't think I can commit 100% to winning World's Strongest Man. And I'm okay with that. And I think if you're okay with it yourself, it's not a problem. Some people will be like, oh, you should give up. I don't want to give up because I still love what I do. I love training in the gym. I love challenging myself. I love improving. But I've just admitted to myself that I'm not prepared to go to that level at the moment. Sorry, little fly. And I'm okay with that. And as long as I'm okay with it, I don't really care what other people think. Because you'll always get people say, "Oh, you should give up. You should do that. Do this, that."
You're right, mate. I mean, like you say, if you've got something that you are good at, you are genuinely world class. Let's categorize it as that. Let's say you are genuinely world class. When that's gone, you're going to miss it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's a hard step to take.
Like I said, from a young age, from the age of about 3, I've done some kind of competitive sport. So I'll find something else. I play in a local darts team now, but I've got goals particularly focused on powerlifting right now. I've never had the opportunity to train for a max squat. I've always done well at squat events at World's Strongest Man. So I really want to see what I'm capable of, committing 100%. Once my leg's fully recovered, seeing what I can kind of do. I've got a personal goal of trying to be the first British athlete to squat 1,000 pounds raw. So that's kind of,
why not? Why not?
I think I'm capable of it. Some people might think I'm crazy, but we'll see.
Well, let's be honest. It's been a strength for you throughout your career, Loz.
Yeah.
And statically, you are arguably getting stronger. I mean, you're busting PBs on your pressing.
My static strength is improving. What's not as good is that dynamic, explosive power that I had when I was younger. But I feel like I'm improving in other areas. I'm enjoying a different challenge right now. And hopefully, if my body allows me to come back to strongman, I will. But if it doesn't, I'll be doing arm wrestling or powerlifting, or I'll always have something to focus on.
Well, let's just pick up on the arm wrestling side of things there. Obviously, another sport that's exploding worldwide now.
Yeah. It's really good.
And that's an area that you've got genuine interest in. And this is not because this is not since the announcement that Eddie's going to be trying his hand in the sport. Prior to that, you've been training with the Crusaders down in Swindon. You're based in Gloucester, so it's just down the road. This is just another example of a sport where you can utilize what you've got from a God-given perspective and from the years of training. How much of a crossover potential do you think there is, or do you feel that there is to come into arm wrestling? Did you feel very comfortable with the sport when you first started to pull?
When I first started, I was useless. And the guys at the Crusaders Club in Swindon have been so good to me. I feel like when you're an elite level strongman, or you're generally known as a big strong guy, and you go to something like arm wrestling, it's very easy for people to just show you up. Because arm wrestling is an extremely hard technical sport with a very specific type of strength. Strength that isn't really developed by doing anything else. the kind of, even like although strongmen have strong hands and wrists, it's still a different type of wrist strength, and then understanding how technical it is as well. I mean, I was, going up against 50-year-old guys that weigh about 80 kilos and couldn't do a thing to start with. I just couldn't do a thing. And he's a crafty old bugger. And like everything you try, you can feel he's doing something new every time to make sure you can't do anything. But having that natural strength and then learning the technique, suddenly you start improving very quickly.
Yeah, the catch up comes quick.
Yeah, and that's one thing I did notice. I improved fast. And I think the fact that I've done many sports before, the fact that I coach and understand mechanics and movements, you tend to pick things up quickly. But to go from pro strongman to be an elite level arm wrestler, I still believe it would take a few years. I don't. I certainly can't. I know Eddie's got his match coming up against Rob, and quite honestly, I don't think Eddie's got hope in hell. As strong as he is, and Eddie would destroy, pretty much any man at strength events in the gym. Arm wrestling is still very different. I know you've trained Eddie a little bit, and how powerful he is. And obviously,
very small amount. It's the difficulty is, Loz, it's like yourself, super busy guy. If I had Eddie for 6 months to a year, entirely different set of criteria, different proposition. But I had him for 2 hours, one afternoon. That's you can't achieve.
I know from sessions with some of the guys down there, you have your 2 hour session, you're good, but then you're knackered by the end of it, and then you forget it all, and you've got to start again. It doesn't come naturally straight away. Whereas you guys that have been doing this stuff for years, you don't even have to think about it. It's like repetition of any sport. It's like a tennis player hitting a forehand. You just know what to do. Whereas Eddie and myself will still be thinking about what we have to do.
But it's so exciting that we've got the. I mean, we had Devon Larratt on the podcast the other day, and he said, "Look, he said, I'm excited by this. You meet these guys, which obviously I'm very familiar with you all from the strongman circuit, but he hasn't met as many strongmen." And he said he was so impressed. He said these men are titans. He described you guys as, and then he said, and the opportunity to get some of these guys into the sport and to try and unleash that power is exciting, and it is for me. We've spoke about it before. I'll work with yourself to try and get you there quick and fast track you to that kind of situation. Interestingly, Devon spoke about Mark Felix.
Okay.
And he said that he gripped up Mark on the table while they were in Ohio at the Arnolds. And he said that he felt like Mark's potential was incredible.
Wow.
Just because of the stats of the guy, the physicality on the length of the forearm, the levers.
That hand size, you think, I mean, obviously a big hand is massive, but Mark's hand is ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is.
If anyone's been to any of the Giants live shows, they've usually got Mark's hand as a print, and it takes up the whole page of the A4 paper.
It's such a weapon for the guy in that. And also the length of the forearm.
Yeah. He's
got so many natural gifts there. So I think there's a real possibility that we're going to see more and more strongmen sort of as the popularity of arm wrestling and the money available in the sport of arm wrestling increases. I think there's that real possibility where we're going to see these crossovers from one strength sport into another, and that's super exciting, mate. It really is.
Definitely. I think someone like Eddie, his character is so kind of right for it as well. I enjoyed watching the WAL kind of league last year. I watched every one, and the characters are why we watch it. If it was just two guys pulling, you sort of get a bit bored. But when you kind of get behind someone, it's why people love Devon, the way the trash talking and the way it gets in people's heads from an early. I love it. I just find it, interesting, and it kind of pulls you into it.
The funny thing is about that, Loz, as well. People might think out there that that's manufactured or stage managed. It really isn't. I mean, that will continue. Those mind games will continue over and above what you can imagine, because ultimately arm wrestling crosses the bridge. It bridges the boundary between strength sport and combat sport.
Yeah.
You see it more fluidly within the UFC, within boxing. Well, it's the same with arm wrestling. Right to the moment when those guys come out to go to the table, it is on. They're just into each other's heads all the time. And when I get the guys on here on the podcast, they're off before we go live. They're already at it, you know. Literally, I'll be like, "Hey, whoa! We haven't even started the bloody show yet," and they're off. They're already hammering each other before I'm trying to hit the record button, missing gold. It's as funny as hell, mate. It really is.
I should imagine Michael Todd and Devon on is interesting.
It's going to take some adjustment for you lads, because Strongman's like ultra respectful, isn't it? You know, when you go to you guys are all there super respectful, and it's great that that's the case. But I can't wait to see it when you do start crossing over, getting used to that mindset of somebody getting into you. It's just constant banter, you know. But yeah, it's exciting stuff, guys. We're going to be back with Loz in just a few minutes. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you again in a second.